I honestly don't think most people understand how truly bad things are for Blizzard at this point. I currently see absolutely no future for any Blizzard products, games, or anything. Diablo 4, Overwatch, World of Warcraft, StarCraft, none of these things have a future. And this video proves it. I wasn't initially going to react to this. I wasn't even gonna talk about any of this stuff. But yesterday I put this on just for some background noise, and roughly 5 minutes in, I understood that this is the biggest Blizzard Cope video that I have ever seen in my life. Ever. Not even joking. I wish I was joking, but no. This is absolutely horrid. Because this kind of implies that Blizzard have learned their lesson and are now doing things good, even though the current World of Warcraft is literally trending all over the internet for being a fucking diversity DEI shit show. We got half-breed crippled women of color leading nations and teaching men how to be men. We got mages in wheelchairs. We have the disabled running amok everywhere. I mean, we never honestly left the Shadowlands writing, at least, okay? We left the Shadowlands, but they didn't take the Shadowlands out of the writing, okay? It is abysmal. It is truly abysmal. And the more I look into this, the worse actually it gets. Let me summarize a little bit about Dragonflight, the most recent expansion that people are saying that actually wasn't that bad. Let me summarize it. Let me summarize the story a little bit. Thing A happens. Oh no. Thing B happens. Oh no. Is there a reason for these things happening? No, they just randomly happen as always. That's shit writing, right? But wait, Blizzard has learned. This time, they're gonna explain why Thing A and Thing B happen. And here's the explanation. And this explanation is so bad, you just wish that they never explained anything, okay? World of Warcraft lore is honestly in a better situation, but shit just happens and you kind of live with it, and there's no explanation why anything happens. Because this is the explanation for everything in Dragonflight happening, okay? Oh, all of this stuff that you see around you happening right now? Oh, it was actually happening all the time. No one just talked about it. Don't worry about it. It's better you don't explain stuff and this is actually your level of explanation, okay? And we never moved past that. We never moved past Shadowlands retardation, okay? We never moved past the Dragonflight autistic screeching writing. The War Within is literally a feminist fever dream where you're just installing strong women of power that are better than everyone else into positions they should never actually have, but they just randomly get because we killed the men. It is a shit show. It is an absolute, without question, shit show. And the War Within is not going to be a lot better, okay? It's probably going to be worse, in fact. It's insane. And this is just pure cope. This cope actually is pretty factual, and it shows that there is no future for World of Warcraft because of the things being said. Because Blizzard, unironically, thinks with the fruit bowls and the everything that's happening is currently the right direction. Kill me now.
After years of watching WoW collapse under its own weight, after years of developing lots of different forms of brain damage, we now know exactly why the Dark Era happened. Quite simply, Ian was afraid. He admitted to this publicly in a room full of game industry people. And what I love about this design talk that he gave is basically it's about how it took him a while to realize some mistakes and to learn new things about how to lead a game like World of Warcraft.
Wait, did he cut something? I swear yesterday there was a little bit extra right here. I swear there was something more here. Was this video edited?
Let's get into it. Like most of modern WoW, it started off in Legion. Okay, Mythic Plus, World Quest, Artifact Power, all of that stuff. That wasn't Ian's grand plan that he forced upon WoW like a dictator. No, it wasn't that. Remember, Tom Chilton was still game director when a lot of this was happening. So put simply, Legion wasn't the WoW that Ian made. It was the WoW that Ian inherited. But then, when it came time to make BFA, he thought his job was to go and make more Legion, and to make the...
And that, unironically, would not be really a big problem, because there's 2 expansions that people are claiming that actually weren't bad after Wrath of the Lich King, and that is Pandaria, ironically enough, and actually, the demon one with the Legion and stuff. What is that? Battle for Azeroth, or whatever it's called. Don't remember. Okay? That one. People actually... That was not actually that bad. Everything after that was shit, though, and that was the problem.
Problems that Legion had better. So that's exactly what he did. Or, tried to do. But, of course, it didn't have the fantasy of artifact weapons, it didn't have class halls, didn't have Illidan, or those great things. Ian recreated Legion in the form of systems design because he was kind of a systems designer first. That's why his team made Azerite armor to ape artifacts from a systemic level. The Heart of Azeroth was there to give you your AP grind. They kept the world quests, they kept the emissaries, and then of course Shadowlands was kind of more BFA, but it got even more specific. Logging in, you could almost hear Ian say, "Play the game our way, or don't play at all." At least that's how it could feel to a player. And what I love about this design talk that he gave is basically, it's about how it took him a while to...
Yeah, okay. So, if you're paying attention to this, then the summary currently is, everything else previously wasn't that good, but that was a learning experience. Yes, I will also put on my resume being a retard for 5 years was a learning experience. I definitely will. Okay? But I have to work at McDonald's because YouTube's not working out. It is what it is. But, the idea behind this, the insidious one, is to say that everything's fine now, that these lessons were learned, and now all of the right things are being done, which is insane. Also, what's insane? This new YouTube layout, which kind of seems like fucking ass, not gonna lie.
Realize some mistakes and to learn new things about how to lead a game like World of Warcraft. Now, before we begin, you've got a golden opportunity to get yourself geared up with Hugh Green's...
No.
So as it turns out, he was supposed to give this talk 5 years ago. But 2020 happened, shit got in the way. Now it's 2025, World of Warcraft is a completely different game. So what he talks about is going through his notes back from 2020 when he was originally supposed to give this talk. And thankfully for us, he doesn't agree with what he was going to say back then in many cases. Essentially, here's the core difference that we learn from this talk. He's not making the WoW that he was told to make anymore. So with BFA, it was basically the original WoW team DNA being passed over. He frames it as his solemn responsibility to carry that on. Now, originally, he believed his goal was to carry that vision exactly as he was given it, to essentially make sure that it never goes off track. But, as he covered in the talk, he soon realized something. Instead of him serving a vision, the vision kind of needed to serve us. Instead of making WoW the way they wanted to make it, one day they learnt to make the WoW that we actually wanted to play.
I'm sorry, when did that happen? When are we getting the WoW that we wanted to play? I'm sorry, where is it? I feel lost. Am I blind?
For anyone here who is working on or thinking about releasing a game that will have an ongoing live service component, if you put that out there and people come to it and are playing it, congratulations, that is an amazing accomplishment. But it's also essential to realize that the moment you release that out into the world, the nature of designing that experience is transformed. Before it was released, it was your vision, it was your thing, your team's thing to craft. Once it's out there and it has become home to some number of players, it is now equally theirs, and it is their world that you need to be a caretaker of, as well as the design.
Yeah, so let's ignore everything the player base is saying until the player base shrinks, and now let's listen to the idiots that are left, that are coping lunatics. aka Diablo 4 right there for you. Okay? None of this is profound. None of this is smart. None of this is even a reasonable takeaway. Arguably, listening to this man speak, you are now stupider when it comes to understanding what is good in a game or not, because World of Warcraft has not been good for decades at this point.
Of.
There you have it. That's Ian saying the words outright. So today, they actually are listening to feedback a lot more. They're
Are
taking it
they?
in a different light. Instead of fixing players playing the game the wrong way, they try to support playing the game. So that's why we've got our solo devs, warbands, quick gearing, player housing, them finally solving the add-on problem. All of these things essentially come from this realization. Now, you may recognize this from one of our recent videos. It's a desire path. Basically, Ian and his team no longer try to make us walk in the path that they set out. Where essentially in the past, every time they would see one of these desire paths that we would make ourselves, they would try to force us onto their own path. That would make us angry. They essentially used to build railroads so that we could only play their way. I remember, and it didn't impact everyone because PvP is maybe a little bit more niche in World of Warcraft, but whenever they changed PvP gearing so that it literally had a specific order that you went through, they did that in BFA. It's one of the most unhinged and insane designs I've ever seen in a game. They had logical reasons for it, but of course those made no...
Now, there is actually one thing I can say that is kind of good about current World of Warcraft than the previous shitty iterations. Okay, we have moved away from, if I have to choose, what do I want? Classic talent points, where there's a lot of nothing, but at least there's a lot of nothing, because none of those talent points matter. You never change it, you never have to think about it. It's very simple to understand what is good. And then you have something like Mists of Pandaria, where you have a very little amount of nothing, because most talent points are not impactful enough and they're kind of fucking boring for most classes. If I had to choose between that and that, I would choose Classic overall, honestly. Mist of Pandaria talent points. A lot of nothing is better than very little of nothing. And they did improve that, okay? Because World of Warcraft for a long time tried to make everything fucking easy. And that is making talent points more simpler, that is making rotations more simpler, and a lot of brain damage shit like that. And well, at least now in the modern game, they are not making it simple. There's like 50 talent, there's like 100 talent points that you have to read, bucko. It is what it is, and more shit. Okay, learn. Okay, and that's better, honestly. I kind of like that World of Warcraft, at least in some ways, has understood that, hey, trying to put everyone at the IQ of 70 is not a good way to make the game. We should actually literally forsake and put them on the altar of slaughter, the people who have an IQ of 70. Okay? How about we concentrate on normal people, not the fucking retards? That's a great thing. And they kinda are doing it a little bit, at least with the talents and the rotations and stuff like that. And for the retards who aren't good enough, they'll just put in the automatic rotation. Fuck it.
Sense for real, actual humans. And I think that example encapsulates just how bad the problem got during that era. Nowadays, it's different. They actually try to support our desire paths. That essentially means if we're doing something unexpected, they try to realize that there's probably a good reason for us doing that, so what they should do is try to help.
This literally, by the way, never lasts. This is also like super levels of scope, okay? This never lasts, okay? They said in Diablo 4, oh, we're gonna buff things and not nerf things. Well, guess what? 3 seconds later, they were already nerfing things.
Help us do that way. Going even further, he says they avoid, and I quote, adversarial design patterns. You know those times where it almost felt like they were punishing you for trying to play the game the way that you wanted? I mean, it's something that we've been harping on about in our videos to Blizzard for years. It's nice to see Ian just say it here on stage. And it
Wait, this is such a stupid and complicated way to actually explain this. Look at these pictures, like, what the fuck are we talking about, okay? So, the idea here is there's a path, because this is civil engineering. There's a path. People take the shortcut because they want to go here, right? So people don't take a shortcut. They put in a bench, okay? Then people go around the bench. Well, the next place where people go around, now there's the trash can. So people start going there. They put, this is effectively how this shit works, okay? It's pretty stupid.
Nice to see Ian just say it here on stage. And it cuts through to a funny thing. What's real isn't important, or at least isn't always important. They may have their data, it's good to look at that data, but what Ian goes into depth on is how what players feel is what matters over everything else, and their goal is to balance how players feel. And to explain that, he talked about class balance. It's kind of fascinating.
Yes, now we're gonna balance the game around Reddit and fucking forums. Listen, anyone who ever posts on Reddit or the World of Warcraft forums is instantaneously marked for life as a person who does not get to put their opinions in the public.
On stage, he pointed to Warcraft logs data from Cataclassic and the War Within. Modern class balance basically is way...
Oh, sub rogue, let's fucking go! Time to finally play. Holy shit! Nice!
Way better than Cataclysm Classic. Yet, he says that it doesn't matter to how we feel, even if it is technically more balanced, because what matters is how people actually feel, not sims. Another way to put that is that if you're last on the damage meters by 2%, even if it's only 2%, it still is going to feel horrible, and that sort of thing will define a meta.
Yep, you are the last in the damage meters. It doesn't matter, honestly, if the damage difference is like 200, when we're talking about millions. Being the last is still bad.
So now, they instead have a huge internal focus on player emotion and player story. And if you felt like balance hotfixes are coming in far quicker than they used to, that's actually why. Now on paper, that's kind of awesome, but obviously they do need to be careful. Changing the game too often can make it feel like they're building an unstable ground. So there is a line in the middle, but at least it's good to...
How will Blizzard solve these problems? I don't know, probably by putting more trash in raids. Makes sense.
To hear him say that they understand they're making a game, not balancing a spreadsheet. Now you might be wondering, how did he figure all of this out? And if you think you've got an idea, well, you may still be just about as surprised as we were. Don't know about you, but I absolutely assumed that it was Shadowlands that broke the camel's back. It certainly broke loads of ours. You know,
it was. People just gave up on World of Warcraft. That was it. Shadowlands was the start of apathy. Okay? The reason why a lot of people, including myself, initially heard that Dragonflight is not bad was because no one gave a shit. Everyone who gave a shit had left, and then it was only the brain-damaged people left who were saying, "Oh yeah, Dragonflight is great. These random fucking dragons that no one has ever heard about, their story's amazing." Fuck you, retards.
Oh, Choregassed, all of that fun, the way the legendaries ended up being anti-fun, how the Maw was designed to be frustrating.
Why call it legendaries if they're plentiful and they... Legendary is supposed to be legendary because it's rare. Not accessible for everyone constantly.
All of that stuff. They gave us what they called meaningful choice, but it didn't feel...
It's the same reason why no one actually gives a shit about the Ashbringer in Season of Discovery, really, because everyone has an Ashbringer. It's not hard. It's not anything, okay?
Good, and we just kind of called it restrictive bullshit. The wider response was that Shadowlands was more night...
I actually, you know what? I really fucking hate World of Warcraft how they do legendaries, if I think about it. I really, really do. Because they're constantly doing this, like, shards of a dish. Light forth ingot. And, you know, gay stuff like that, okay? You know what that means? That means that now all the legendaries just feel the same because they're on a timer, okay? And every single guild is always going to get those legendaries when the timer hits 0, okay? If you need 1 week on average to make a legendary, half of the fucking player base is going to have a legendary at that point, okay? It's not going to be a legendary, it's not going to be rare. I am honestly so much more for like a 0.1% drop rate on an item, okay? I am so much more for that, okay? Because that feels really, really unique, at least. Because legendaries no longer feel unique when everyone has a cooldown to acquiring one. Your legendary cloaks in Pandaria, was it a cloak in Pandaria? That shit is not really legendary in the slightest. Might as well not even call it a legendary.
nightmare than game. You sort of wanted none of it, and so you rebelled. Now, Ian's theory at this point, was that Blizzard were making mistakes. Essentially, you wanted none of it, so you rebelled. And where this gets fun is Ian talks about basically what his theory was at the time. His theory was at the time they were just making mistakes. That Shadowlands wasn't as good as Legion or Mists, and that was a skill issue on their part, that they weren't making
invented it, stop, never.
WoW good enough. They weren't good enough at realizing the vision that had been passed down to them by the people who came before them. The other side of that then is that we, as players, didn't understand. That we definitely would have wanted their vision of World of Warcraft if it was done good enough by them. So
oh, wow, now it's our fault, guys. The developers are shit, but it's our fault because we did not understand. We didn't listen! Surely.
What they were trying to do was to do it good enough. And that does explain many of the head-scratching decisions made in Battle for Azeroth and Shadowlands. Essentially, Ian and his team felt stuck trying to make a version of WoW that didn't seem to work. Shadowlands flopping didn't even change his mind, at least not by itself. What actually saved WoW was Classic. With Classic's release, Ian saw that J. Allen Brack was, in a little bit of a way, kind of right. Players didn't want to play Classic like they did in 2004. I know, the whole you think you do, but you don't. Because it turned out they absolutely did want to
No, that guy was just completely wrong.
play WoW Classic, but they didn't want to play it the same way, and they actually went ahead and played it in a very different way. Ian says that in 2004, people picked talents that were somewhere in the middle of what they wanted to do. In his example, he talked about a build that would be fine for both PvP and raiding, that people were happy enough to build their character that way and make some sacrifices. But in 2020, people could not accept being suboptimal. They did want to play WoW Classic, but they definitely played it in a different way. So instead,
yeah, because no one gave a shit about PvP.
They would grind out obscene amounts of gold so that they could swap talents consistently. And of course, not with a smile. They hated every second of it, but they did it anyway, because they had to be optimal, because that's how the modern player...
By the way, I was one of the people who said, yeah, we need changes. The Classic is good, still better than everything we had at that point, but Classic does need changes. We need changes. We need dual specializations. We need to rework skills that literally don't do shit. We need to rework talents that are too weak and things like that. We need to rework items. I said all of these things. A lot of these things didn't happen, but, still, I was for changes. Small changes that still make Classic like Classic and feel rewarding, but, so stuff actually works. I thought it was pretty important.
Plays. And seeing that happen opened Ian's eyes. I suppose it was an example of people wanted to play Classic. They didn't want to play it in the same way, and look how much friction and anger they would push through just to have the optimal talent build for every situation. And this taught Blizzard that it wasn't necessarily World of Warcraft that changed what players did, that also players themselves had changed, and that therefore the WoW that they made with BFA and Shadowlands isn't actually what anyone wanted. So they had to change the vision of what they were making, and not try to just be recreating.
And they fucking failed spectacularly with that. Okay, how long have people complained about trash in raids? How long? Forever. That's right. Have they removed trash in raids? No, fuck no. They haven't. Okay? Whenever the Classic Plus drops, Molten Core is gonna have all those fucking annoying trash mobs that take a fucking hour to clear. You know that Blackwing Lair is gonna have that. People are literally gonna quit at the steps of AQ because there's just too much trash mobs. Blizzard will never fix these things. They actually don't. They never listen.
Some passed down idea from an older generation where game design was very, very different. The impact of this realization was fairly obvious and fairly immediate, because Dragonflight felt like it was a completely different game. As a game, I mean. I still think that Dragonflight was a narrative mess, a tonal mess, etc., but we've already talked about that. This is me talking about the video game designy bit. And the pace of change only seems to be increasing, because the War Within feels different again. And Midnight, well, Midnight is going to have player housing, and it's going to have, in many ways, no combat add-ons. That does actually mean they seem to want to make a game for a shifting audience. In a way, that
Yeah, because no one likes fucking add-on.
means the designer's challenge is designing something for.
Let us just... Dude, listen. I don't want a single add-on. All I want is the most simple fucking shit ever, okay? I want an in-game thing where I can move my portrait, move my bars if I feel like it, but I can move everything, okay? I want that, and I want the ability to hide certain icons, okay? And then, I want the most simple fucking thing. I want some kind of menu that I can click on. I can select the spell, and I can select that right there on the screen, you know? Actually, let's open Paint, okay? Because this is the most simplest thing, okay? They could have done this so long ago, but they fucking didn't, okay? This is all we ever want, honestly, in add-ons. The fact that this has taken them years to even contemplate, honestly, is fucking disgusting, okay? Okay, let me explain how this works, okay? So we have the screen. Here's needs to be white. Okay, so here's the thing. This is what you're looking for. Here's the mini map. Here's your portrait. Here's the thing that you are targeting. Okay, and all we want to do in this stupid fucking ass game is one, something that already, by the way, is in retail. The ability to take your portrait and put it here. Take what you are targeting and put it fucking here. That's literally 50% of the add-ons right there. Except for boss shit, okay? But boss shit can be done easily with just, you know, sound cues and whatnot. And then, the thing that we want after this is even simpler. We want to open our, you know, we just want to have the ability to open our spell book, okay? We want to find an ability that we want there. For example, I don't know, Icelands or something like that. And then, if this Icelands ability adds like stacks of some kind of frost shit, then we want the ability to pick this ability, put it right here or wherever we want it, and we want it to display the stacks of the frost shit. Okay? If there's also like a slow that it applies to me, maybe also the slow right here, okay? Or if it applies a buff, we want to see how long that buff gets applied, and we want to be able to also put it somewhere right around this location. And then, okay, if it has a cooldown, then we want the ability to apply, to see the cooldown of this ability, if it is a cooldown ability, okay? Icelands isn't, but who cares, right? I want to pick every ability where I want to see it, and I want to put it on the screen right there, okay? That's it. Those are the only add-ons in this game that we honestly ever want. That's it. Just an easier way to see what's applied on the enemy, what debuffs are applied, and how long until they expire, what kind of, you know, DA effects are and how long until they expire, and big cooldowns. Just give us the ability to manage that in World of Warcraft, and everything suddenly is just so much better. Because most of the weak orders that you can get for this shit are just ass. They're really bad.
That shifting future audience, but obviously no one can see into the future. And most importantly for this example, Ian cannot see into the future. But thankfully, he also knows that.
And so what we had done was, again, optimize for something at the expense of players' experience today. And if it's not fun today, if the thing you're not making isn't fun right now, will there even be a tomorrow?
It felt good hearing Ian say that. This is not just some heavy philosophical stuff about the game. This is also Ian telling us what
this is not even heavy philosophical stuff.
The future is going to look like, albeit not directly, because he's not.
Imagine trying to say, oh, game not fun is fucking a philosophical epiphany. Insane.
Just going to get on stage and then
I know it's Epiphany, shut the fuck up, but then I could say Fanny.
leak a bunch of shit. But specifically, he talked about how they build World of Warcraft now and how it's different. So for years and years, every expansion, they try to fix WoW forever. Have a grand forever fix.
Yeah, you should do that, probably.
In the talk, he uses World Quests as an example and how it solved questing in Legion. And most of us loved it all expansion, but in BFA, we grew tired of World Quests. So essentially, World Quests may have been perfect in Legion, but now in BFA, they were no longer perfect. They were only perfect for Legion. Basically, Blizzard realized that no one solution is going to be right forever, that the game needs to change to stay alive. And the best example
That sounds like stupid cope just to say, oh, if we get something wrong, it doesn't matter. That's how it sounds.
he gave is actually talents. So on stage, he shows off the original talent system, and then he shows off the Mists rework. Now, the designers said...
This is exactly what I'm talking about. This is so fucking ass. Okay? So, oh, this is actually like, what's it called? Kata talents, I guess. So, Kata talents are better because it was a lot of stuff, and some of this stuff was interesting, okay? Then they condensed all of it in Mists into shit that you never cared about. And they were weak, and there was not a lot of them. Again, a lot of shit that doesn't matter is better than no shit that matters. Doesn't matter.
They made a perfect, extensible system.
Perfect,
and actually,
my
the
ass.
guys who made the original talent design actually said that the mop one was so good, they wish they made it themselves. But we all know how that ended. In so many cases, we actually hated the mop talents. They focused on making the perfect
Yeah, I haven't played Mop, but I can already tell it's bad.
design. They solved designers' problems, but perhaps they forgot how we all felt about it along the way. So, whenever they built the Dragon
Yeah, this is so much better. This is what I talked about at the start of the video. This is actually a win, okay? Oh, but I don't want to then 41% yourself. Minecraft character time. I don't give a shit. This is so much more better.
flight talents, they stopped caring about perfect. They started focusing on something that we would actually
Will you actually probably end, though, at the same place with everyone else? Yes, but at least you will feel some form of satisfaction for it.
want. Now, today, even if they know that
Oh,
they
what
may
the
have to
hell
do
is
it all
this
over
again?
in the future. You see, with talents, Blizzard soon got terrified. Every expansion, they would need to add new talent points, need to add new talents. How would the game survive that bloat? That led to the Mists of Pandaria talent system. And then, of course, it ended up leading to a lot of the borrowed power. Blizzard didn't really think they could do anything because it would have to last forever if it was in talents, and they needed a forever system. Whereas now they've just embraced that you can't fix something forever because you probably aren't good enough to find the perfect solution, but also there is no temporally perfect solution. A perfect solution for now may be wrong for 5 years because the game will have changed and the players will have changed. And the big learning, the big thing that Ian talks about in this presentation is that he's no longer afraid of that. That he's no longer afraid to ship a system that he knows may be a problem for future him. And he jokes about the team leaving problems for, as he says, future us. But that now they actually have faith in themselves. And that means they
I'm sure. Okay, listen, the talent point system is the only thing that I think is a win, and everything else is just a joke.
actually have faith that they'll be able to solve those problems when they arise. And that sometimes that price is worth paying if it means that right now the game is more fun.
How about we fix the story? How about we how about we listen to the players and kill Cat God? How about we listen to the players and get rid of that absolutely filthy, crippled, half-black elf woman that is going to be the new hero that teaches men how to be men? How about these things? How about listening to the players then, huh? How about that? No one fucking wants to deal with this shit. Everyone wants to get rid of it. How about listening then, huh? How about that? How about making World of Warcraft less gay some magically? How about these special tricks, huh? Yeah, probably not happening. So again, this is scope, okay? The fact that talent points accidentally got made better It happens. Watch as their next expansion become shit once again because reasons. It never ends. It never ends. Also, I don't understand why Blizzard just doesn't do this. Why can't Blizzard just do things like, kind of like Path of Exile does to a degree, okay? Why can't you have these talent points? And the next expansion, what you get is you still have the talent points. Maybe something's different. Maybe there's a new talent point here or there. But then there's a new system that, again, does something slightly different and changes the way that you play. And then the third expansion, there's another system that does these things. And the fourth expansion, maybe you actually change the talent points. The talent points that have not been changed now for, I don't know, like 3-4 years, which feels stale now. People don't like it when something that, you know, they have only had for 5 minutes gets taken away. And that's how talent points feel when, you know, every year they get completely revamped. But if they get revamped every 3 years, no one's gonna fucking complain. It's new talent points. It's exciting. It's a new system. As long as people are getting tired of the old one because they have seen it for far too long, changing it is good. But changing it when people still like it, when it's still hot, is bad. Anyway, not that Blizzard's ever gonna care what I say. And that was a Billiard. 10 out of... I can't scroll down? Well, whatever. That was Billiard. 10 out of 10. Bye.